So this is cheese slice. Go ahead and put this up on the screen. This is Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping when they just recently seen each other, and you can see by the body language, the way it looks, and there he is. You can see it. Like it's energetic. Xi Jinping is much more hospitable than he was when Blinken was there. When Macron was there, he's barely shaking his hands. He asked his associate when Blinken was there, how long is he going to be here for? One more night. And he was like, good. The rhetoric to Blinken this time, Xi Jinping was pretty much, Taiwan's a red line. It's a red line now. Enough is enough. We're not gonna go through the same thing the Russians are going through in Ukraine. Taiwan's a red line, and you best not go over your boundaries. After he met, this is recent when he met with Putin, but just recently, and this is genius too as well, he went to this quiet trip to Europe. Like a lot of people didn't talk about it. He went to talk with Macron. Like I said, the body language, everything there. I don't think he's willing to listen to the West anymore. He's not going to try to broker a deal through the West. The Chinese president's trip to Europe did not result in any headline-grabbing developments, but that did not prevent him from achieving everything he needed to. Rejecting European complaints about China's economic and geopolitical practices while stoking division between the EU and US all plays into Beijing's interest. And one of the things that's very important to point out, we're not going to go through the whole article, but if you look at the specific objectives of Xi's 5-day trip to France, the other two countries are very important. They were Serbia and Hungary, allies of Russia. He showed up letting them know that they'll be there. China will be there for you. Don't worry about separating yourself from the West. Don't worry about shunning your head to NATO. Don't worry about it. We got your back. Some analysts said, Ankur, that he's going after the low-hanging fruit, understanding Serbia, Hungary. He should have hit Belarus too, they said. That would have been what's going on. But the scary part about what's happening is that the United States is forcing this type of attitude. It's forcing this behavior. It's pushing people away from us with their proxy wars and pushing China and Russia together into the same hands. Now, a lot of peacemaking people will be like, all right, that's cool. They should be allies. They're near each other and stuff. But that does mean something to us on an economic level. If they want to eventually cut us off, they hold all the resources. They hold the majority of the GDP. This is not good. And for me, it makes me think that the psychos who run our foreign policy, they don't mind getting into a hot war with China. They're Malthusians. They can use a little earthly cleansing in my mind. They think they're going to live underground and come out after the dust settles, these people. They're crazy. What are your thoughts when you see Putin going to see Xi? And why, more importantly, should the people that watch this show or any leftist out there that normally pays attention to just local and domestic policy, why should they pay attention to this?
These are world-changing events. That's why you should be paying attention to it. But Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin meeting, and I don't know all of the details of this visit, but like as you're saying, and the context of it, visiting other Russian allies in that hot zone to show support, probably, right? Like clearly, obviously. Yeah. It shows a clear line, right? Again, on Taiwan, on all these other issues, and the ascendancy of China is something that we've been kind of talking about and understanding for a long time now, at least over a decade in the public consciousness, even though the American is not generally aware or cognizant of foreign policy. They've gotten this understanding that China is growing. They're making stuff, the whole made in China thing, the whole China has a bunch of US Treasury debt. There's so many parts of China's growth that Americans have become aware with. And now this connection to Russia, this alliance of global strategic importance, like you're saying, on natural resources. They're buying up all the materials and elements and minerals that they need for the next phase of the 21st century economy, the technology, the infrastructure, the whole way that these people are leading is to increase the quality of life of their people. Yeah. Right. So some people don't even acknowledge that. So when you talk about American foreign policy and the understanding, Putin is just out there to enrich himself. Yeah, he's going to get rich, but he's also objective is to increase the quality of life of the Russians who support him.
Maybe saying he's a nationalist.
Maybe not the Russians who don't support him.
Yeah.
But in the way that Xi Jinping and China has been operating for the last 20, 30, 40 years.
Listen, be careful. I don't want you to get in trouble at the Hindu University for talking nicely about Xi Jinping. So be careful, right?
And it's the same thing in many populists, right? Populist leaders. Prime Minister Modi's done the same thing in terms of what is best for my people. How do I make alliances outside of the American and the European world order? Because we know the American and European world order was built on extracting wealth from the global south. The British kingdom, come on, like the empire, the Queen still got that diamond, you know. The British Museum is just that's a whole separate one of how much loot they've taken from around the world and used it to build their quality of life and then impose their worldviews, their ideology, their religion, their economic system, their democratic principles on everyone else as if they're the civilizers, right? And that language continues to pop up in different aspects, and it's maybe more subtle than it used to be, but it's part of what's going on in this world. And Xi Jinping and what that clip that you showed, and I'm not sure about the next segment that you're going to go into, what we're talking about, war with China. I actually don't think a hot war with China.
You're skeptical of it.
I'm skeptical of it because it would be so disastrous. It would be catastrophic to so many people, so much of the planet. So it's something that we should avoid at all costs, right? And again, the way that I thought a war between Ukraine and Russia should be something that would be avoided at all costs. You're right. Some of these people in foreign policy of this country said, no, we could do it. It'll actually benefit America. It'll weaken our enemy, Russia, and it will gain more clout or power on the western, the eastern front of Europe and that breadbasket and all those other things where, and those minerals and those resources, they can be more
extracted for pennies on the dollar. We could take those things, and we could also thrust our monetary system on these people as well, give them really ridiculous IMF loans, make them fault, and then we take over their resources even more. It's like we just, it's a globalist colonization of sorts. You know what I'm saying? I understand when people use the term colonizing, but that seems to be more like about white people just taking an area. These are globalists who are going to hog the majority of these resources. They're not even it's not even about states anymore, right? It's about individuals. It's crazy because when you think about it, it's like the people who are calling the policies aren't even coming from a state. You know what I'm saying? It's not coming from the United States or Great Britain. They sit above these things and they just make these decisions on their own to extract all the resources. I know like a lot of people want to call it capitalism. I don't care what you call about it. There's just a small cabal of these rich, evil, disgusting craziness people. The last part I want to talk about this too as well, because China is going to be a short subject. But the right, I don't know. The thing that drives me crazy, as the TikTok bill ban came along, right? Freedom of speech, there goes that out the door, right? And we understood this too as well, the way a lot of the pro-Zionist mentality want to censor and shut down, suppress the speech of all these protests, labeling them pro-Hamas. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're not pro anything. They were just anti-death. They don't want to see an ethnic cleansing going on. That's what this is about. But we see the censorship come from these people that we thought that were going to be all about, hey, let's more speech is better than no speech. Instead of they were just mad that they were getting censored. They want to censor other people and they want to censor China and stuff. And the thing that drives me crazy is that there's a lot of these populist right people out there that are blaming TikTok, saying TikTok is using the algorithm against us. Like they're trying to do some form of hypnotizing and voodoo. I brought a video, and I think the societies are so different. What is praised in the United States compared to what's praised in China? In China, they praise engineers, mathematicians, their whole collective mindset. This is a Chinese kindergarten. Tell me, will you see this in an American kindergarten? And this should wake up a lot of people. Instead of start blaming China for all your problems, look in the mirror, United States, and blame yourself. Chinese kids in kindergarten. Look how they're working together.
Kindergartners?
Yes.
are like the all-star Chinese kindergarten.
I've seen a lot of videos like this. The basketball bouncing. It was, this is the best. Like, they're not. This is not like the every Chinese class. Nah, you know. I don't know. I've seen this basketball in different schools, and I've seen kids with this. You know what I'm saying? It just seems like a different culture, though. What they're doing, they're teaching their kids to work together in a collective mindset. They're talking about it's more important to take care of the community than the individual. The things you don't see in the Chinese all-star kindergarten class over here is like, individual toys that a kid might have brought that his mom got him, whatnot. We have show and tell. Bring it on in. No, they're more about what do we do together as a society.
Yeah.
So their TikTok, their algorithm is going to be more favorable towards the things that they praise, the people they praise. Where what are we praising? Kim Kardashian, and all this other stupid shit, Ankur. I mean, come on. How do we, the party of individual responsibility, the populist rights, wants no individual responsibility when it comes to our culture, when it comes to our foreign policy. They're lost. This is why China is getting an advantage over us. This right here.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on this. I actually taught English in China for about 6 months, in South Korea for a year back in 2008, 2009. I've been a public school teacher here in Los Angeles, public school LA, in Silmar, doing middle school. I made this joke. I thought I was going to stand and deliver, but it didn't go as well as that. It's a complicated system where society prioritizes or does not the next generation.
Yeah.
The education, the nurturing, the development, right? And we see that from the means testing for SNAP benefits, right? The amount of poor kids in poverty, right? Abortion is not allowed, but neither, and at the same time they're cutting SNAP benefits, right? It's like a sick equation where fine that all-star
one is supposed to influence, right? The other one is supposed to get you motivated to get off that stuff. And we cut your benefits, then you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
And then instead of investing in public education or in higher education, we're putting that money into war, right? And the politics and the narrative is, let's blame teachers and police are heroes, right?
Yes.
Teachers gotta expected to do overtime and not get paid.
Yes.
And then they're at least okay at their job. Police get paid big bucks to be on overtime on their phones.
They get to be on paid leave when they fuck up.
So that dynamic carries all the way from the international level to the local level. And what you showed there in China is not the be all end all, but like China invests a lot in education at all the levels, but also in military. Yes. But America has been, and the bifurcation of public education and private education, of religious education and education for the rest of us proles, the secular folks who can't afford the private education. It's really dramatic. But also within public education, there is a dramatic difference in terms of which neighborhood you're in, if you're in the magnet program, what the demographics, how much money are your parents making, is the PTA able to raise $100,000 to buy and hire other staff to cover the gaps that the public school district is not funding. There's layers and layers to the funding of public education, just in California, which I'm more familiar with compared to the national level. And then LAUSD, which I work for a school board member. I got to understand the budget a little bit, been a substitute teacher. And the bottom line is, right, we're not spending enough on our kids. And the money that we are spending on our kids and investing in, it's being, it's not being spent as efficiently and as directed at the issues and the needs of the kids in the classroom as they could be. And there's also creative ideas and opportunities that we continue to miss on. One of my big ideas is field trips. Get the kids going on more field trips, experience what's going out in the world, as opposed to being indoctrinated with textbooks that are written by a biased history oftentimes. And there's a whole battle around
written by the winners, Ankur.
And so the Chinese education system is very different, yes, to say the least. And cultural differences, budget differences, and then just societal priorities. And then how people, like, one of the things that always gets me is these kids think they can just, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right? Middle school kids, fine, you're looking at 5-year-old kids over there and it's harder, but middle school kids, 12, 13, maybe between 10 and 13, 6th grade to 8th grade, big range. But most of these kids haven't had those, especially in these poor schools, haven't had those conversations about what can you learn to get you a career that you would like to do, that would make money, that is beneficial to society, that is actually going to contribute. That kind of planning is not happening. The counseling is not happening. It's not coming from the parents. It's not coming from the social media.
I heard one kid said that he wants to be a Postmates all-star and just deliver. He wants to be a Grubhub specialist. I mean, isn't that sad? Like they don't even think about those things.
I just want to be famous. How are you going to be famous? I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to be.
I want people to like me, and
I want to be a celebrity. I want to be a movie star. And then of course you have kids who want to be doctors and lawyers and engineers. And I always try to steer kids to that and say there are pathways to doing that. It's up to you, right? But that you started with that individual responsibility is missing, and parents will blame the teacher, right? So the individual, who's the first teacher, right? Yes. The parent. And then so if that's missing in the first place, and then that blame gets pushed off, that downward cycle, that lesser of two evils in public education or private education, it's turning into I mean the results are clear in the way that our uninformed citizenry is taken up by the propaganda that buys the system and then perpetuates the system without an engagement in foreign policy, because that's the disconnect that allows this to keep on happening. The high standard of living in this country, compared to those resources that we could be to elevate our population even higher. Yes, but they're being used to suppress other populations abroad. To then keep our standard of living so high.
Fair question, to an educator like yourself. Is it a fair statement when people say that the thing that's most lost or lost a lot in the public education system is they're not teaching kids to think for themselves anymore? The curriculum is more about get in line, do as you're told, behave properly. I mean, obviously you're an educator, and I think that you can work within the parameters of what you're given, right? So it's about the individual. But I have heard a complaint from just a educator the other day saying, what she doesn't like is that too many teachers have brought their own self-beliefs into the room. And that is something that's really, really bad.
Well, I do. I openly talk about it, though. I say, kids, this is what I kind of believe. This is what somebody else would believe. You're open to believe what you want. Let's have a conversation about it. But yes, too many not too many. It's how you do it, right? Are you presenting biased information to persuade your very manipulatable, malleable kids to believe you and support you? And that's where the right-wing criticism is kind of like
merited.
It's merited. Be happening. But on the other hand, in these right-wing Christian schools, they're known for that, right? The private schools. But from what perspective again, and who's there's so many layers to that. I know. And I'm a nuanced person. I like to get into all of that. So in school, when you're talking about a biased curriculum versus a teacher who can take a biased curriculum and then use it as a tool to educate the kids, and wait, is that bias? What did you learn about that? I'm Indian, right? When we started learning about Columbus looking for India, coming to the South, the Caribbean, and then enslaving people because it was easy. It's like, wait a second, there's something wrong here, teacher.
A whole different meaning to the word Thanksgiving.